thing, one adjustment that'll make them the winner.
Well, let's take a look, Al, at your keys to victory in tonight's main event.
This may give us a clue. You never know. For Toney, he's got to stay busy. He tends to take minutes off in a round. He's got to get inside the jab of Mike McCallum where he can work on the inside. When I say McCallum can't be sloppy, don't get into an inside sloppy fight. Keep yourself at a certain distance with your jab and your straight right hand. And don't forget the jab. He likes to punch in the body, but he's got to use that jab.
Mike McCallum, at 40 years of age, making his way into the ring. 54 professional fights. 365 rounds as a pro.
Ring officials assigned by the World Boxing Union. President John Robinson, Chairman Ed Levine. The attending supervisor tonight is Frank Brunette. Your judges at ringside are, from Helena, Montana, Kevin McCallum. From Newark, New Jersey, Larry Hazard Jr. And from New Britain, Connecticut, Steve Epstein. Your referee for this event, from Windsor, Connecticut, the stupendous Steve Smoger. Introducing now the principals first. In the red corner to my right, wearing the light blue trunks, white trim, he weighs 181 pounds. His professional record, 49 victories, 4 defeats, 1 draw. He has 36 wins by way of knockout. He hails from Las Vegas, Nevada. He is the former WBA junior middleweight champion of the world, the former WBA middleweight champion of the world, the WBC light heavyweight champion of the world. Introducing Mike the Body Snatcher McCallum. His opponent, in the blue corner, wearing the black sequin trunks, weighing 182 pounds. His professional record, 53 victories, 3 defeats, 2 draws. He has 35 wins by way of knockout. He hails from Ann Arbor, Michigan. He is the former IBF middleweight champion of the world, the former IBF super middleweight champion of the world, and the former WBU light heavyweight champion of the world. Here is James Lights Out Toney. 12 rounds for the vacant WBU Cruiserweight Championship of the world.
Let's take a look at the rules as governed by the WBU for tonight's championship bout. No 3 knockdown rule, no standing 8 count. Fighter may not be saved by the bell in any round. Mandatory standing 8 count, 10-point must scoring system. 3 judges will score the fight at ringside. Mike McCallum has 5 first-round knockouts in his career, none in his last 24 fights. That's 9 years, 11 months, and 1 day. Last one came in '87 against Leroy Hester. James Toney has 5 first-round knockouts. His last came against Phil Moorfield in March of 1990. That's 6 years, 11 months, 22 days ago, and 42 fights ago.
Mike McCallum coming right out to establish his jab. I think that's a key in this bout for both men. Both have excellent jabs. Both tend to underuse that punch.
This is the heaviest that McCallum has ever fought at. He fought at 180 pounds back in 1993 in a 10-round decision in France against Razim Hassan. Toney was 183 pounds back in July in St. Charles, Missouri, with a 10-round win over Charles Oliver.
And Toney was walking around at about 200 pounds not that long ago, so he does tend to put on some weight in between fights. That may be the understatement of the century.
Common opponents for these two: Roy Jones Jr., both losing 12-round decisions, and Glenn Thomas, both with 10-round wins. That's just a stumble by Toney.
You know what's interesting? You have these two guys, McCallum 40 years old, James Toney with some marks on his record, and yet you look at these two in the ring and you say, I'm fascinated to see which guy can beat the other. I mean, that's the feeling you get about this fight. People at ringside, if you ask 10 people, I bet you get 5 that'll say McCallum and 5 that'll say Toney will win.
They have ducked nobody. Mentioned McCallum has fought 11 champions. Roy Jones Jr., Jeff Harding, Toney, Sumbu Kalambe, Steve Collins, Donald Curry, Milton McCrory, Julian Jackson, to name a few. Toney against Roy Jones, Charles Williams, Iran Barkley, Reggie Johnson, Michael Nunn.
Yeah, so they've been through a who's who of the junior middleweight, middleweight, and super middleweight. One thing that Toney's getting done early, he's getting the left hook in, and he got it right. McCallum is dropping his right hand, and Toney is finding a home for that left hook. And a point, to be made is these men are heavier. They're fighting it at a weight that's much bigger. Miguel Diaz made the point. When they fought at 160, it was smaller men. They have more power now.
When we saw Toney here on ESPN's Championship Boxing in August in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, a 9th round knockout of Duran Williams when he defended his WBU light heavyweight championship, he employed the rope-a-dope.
He did languish on the ropes a lot. He has found some intriguing ways to save energy during fights. Pretty active first round, though, especially for Toney. He has a tendency not to be that way. There's that body work from McCallum. He loves that.
A little left hook from McCallum. We come to the end of round 1, scheduled for 12. Toney McCallum 3 on ESPN's Championship Boxing. And Mom Sherry watching James Lights Out Toney and Mike McCallum for the 3rd time. Round number 2 is underway.
You know what the sad part is? I think her scorecard is more accurate than mine. That's what worries me. And drawn nicer too, I might add.
Good round 1 for Toney. Jasmine had to like that.
Because she may be a little partial in her scoring. They told McCallum when he's on the inside, don't just stand in front of Toney. You got to take a step to the left or a step to the right. The way Toney fights you, if you don't take a step to your left when you throw your left hook, you'll never land it because he has a way of dipping that shoulder, and he's made many fighters look really bad in that regard.
McCallum has 5 second-round knockouts in his career. Toney has 7.
I think that these guys could fight 150 rounds, and they would all be close, as evidenced by round 1.
There's a shot.
McCallum with a very slight edge. I actually ended up giving the round to Toney the last round, but you see how close the numbers are. See, there's an example of why Mike McCallum, for instance, ends up with edge in numbers. Now, he didn't land all those jabs, but there's a jab that got him. It wasn't a great punch, but he jabbed to the body. He's constantly busy, and he makes things happen in the ring.
Don't let him back in the round. Come on. Hands there,
Left hand by Toney.
The left hook is there for Toney whenever he wants to throw it. Because Mike McCallum is really dropping his right hand a lot. Toney has a good left hook, but it's one of many punches he has that are underutilized.
Final 30 seconds of round 2.
McCallum slapping with his punches. He has a habit of doing that. That's maybe the one chink in his armor as a fighter. He's got a good left hook, though. It's the punch that knocked Donald Curry flat when they fought as junior middleweights, but he tends to slap with it sometimes.
Round number 2 coming to an end. This one is scheduled for 12 for the vacant WBU Cruiserweight Championship on ESPN's Championship Boxing. Vacant WBU Cruiserweight Championship, and good action to start round number 3. Mike McCallum, former 3-time world champion, has been in with 11 champions in his career. We asked him what he's most proudest about his illustrious boxing career.
I'm just proud of my career overall. What mainly I'm proud of is that, as you mentioned, I'm 40 years old, and I'm still running around with the guys who are just young, 28 years old, 27 years old. I think that's a great accomplishment that they're achieving by itself, by enough.
It sure is. It's just amazing. Some people can and some people cannot when it comes to longevity in any sport.
And I'll tell you what, it was only 2 years ago that he won again the WBC light heavyweight championship. So he's a very consistent performer, and I can understand why that's what he's most proud of.
Good lead shot there by Toney. See McCallum again just digging to that body. That's why he's called the body snatcher. Counter left from Toney. Take a look at the jabs, 3-2.
This is the answer. I said it was a key. Guess what? They're dead even. So you see with these two guys, it's just so hard to choose. And this round is all of their fights in microcosm. Toney's punches have been a little showier. McCallum has thrown and landed more in this round. I assure you, without even seeing the punch profile. There's a real nice right hand by Toney. But I assure you, McCallum was going to come back with 3, 4, 5, 6 more after that.
Boy, when Toney does decide to get on his toes, he can make things happen. He tends to fight very flat-footed.
James Toney reminds me in a certain way of another fighter that used to box years ago, Clint Jackson, who was a great junior middleweight. Clint Jackson at times looked like he was the greatest fighter that you would ever see, and then he would have mental lapses and coast for parts of rounds or whole rounds and end up throwing fights away. Toney is like that.
Good right hand from Toney. Back comes McCallum. Toney just looking to use that right hand radar.
There's an example of the sloppy kind of fighting that Toney will do better in than McCallum.
Final 10 seconds of round 3. James Toney, Mike McCallum for the vacant WBU Cruiserweight Championship. Montville, Connecticut. Glad you can join us on ESPN's Championship Boxing. Round number 4 underway. James lights out Toney in the black, Mike McCallum in the blue. This for the vacant WBU Cruiserweight Championship. The third meeting between these two. Toney has a win, and they fought to a draw. And now very close rounds.
Every single one. It has been that way in their last 2 fights, and it is that way in this one as well.
So I've given Toney the edge in all 3, and you could easily flip those scores.
Yeah, I've scored 2 for Toney and 1 for McCallum.
But as our numbers will illustrate throughout the night, it is just razor close. In their first fight, McCallum threw more punches but landed just 3 more total punches. In their second fight, McCallum landed 139 more. And through 3 rounds, there's the number out.
Toney had a nice edge in the last round in numbers thrown, and that's why that edge kind of ballooned up there. Nice combinations. James Toney's actually putting his punches together. I say actually because it's such a rarity these days. But see, look at him. Now, he used to do that regularly, and he did it better than that. When he was a super middleweight, James Toney was one of the best pure boxer punchers you could ever imagine seeing, and he's gotten away from that, which is tragic. So if he can get back to it, he'll be great again.
Caution for a low blow.
Ironically, in their second fight, Mike McCallum had a point deducted in the 8th round when he threw a low blow.
Right hand over the top from Toney.
In this round, James Toney has looked like he really wants to go out and establish something against McCallum, and he's had a very good round in the 4th round.
It's ironic you talk about when Toney was a super middleweight. You think about the great champions in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and even 70s. Guys stayed in the same weight class because there weren't 3, 4, 5, 6 organizations and 700 different titles. Now you can just keep gaining weight and moving up, and there's a title to grab.
You'll find some title you can win. The best weight for James Toney absolutely is 168. He might dispute that. Now he is all the way up to cruiserweight, but that was the best for him.
Final seconds of round 4. Scheduled for 12. Hope you're enjoying it on ESPN's Championship Boxing.
Heavyweight champions, Roy Jones, Virgil Hill, Darius Michalczewski, and of course Hill has 2 of the titles, and interestingly Hill will try to unify part of that in Germany against Michalczewski. The reason we show you that is really that's the weight class probably James Toney's going to have to try and win a title in. It's where Roy Jones is, where he claims he wants to go, and those are the light heavyweight champions he can go after.
Don't punch, don't punch. Okay,
that's where the money is.
That is
the notoriety.
And I'm going to refrain from using the catchphrase about showing us where the money is.
Get out of there. Come on.
Listen to McCallum cautioning Toney himself. Keep the punches up, man.
I think that's the referee's job. And by the way, Steve Smoger, one of the very best referees in boxing today. Nice right hand by McCallum. Mike McCallum has become more and more of an arm puncher as life has gone on, and that has not stood him in good stead. It's not helping him tonight.
Toney working the body, McCallum to the head. Little roll reversal. This is round number 5. McCallum has 8 fifth-round knockouts in his career. Toney has 6. Take a look at the numbers in round 4. A good round for Toney.
The last 2 rounds have been excellent for James Toney. He started to really establish something in this bout. I think sometimes James Toney is afraid to give an all-out effort in any given round, and I think that's mental. He knows darn well he hasn't been in great physical condition for the last couple of years, so I think in his mind he thinks he constantly has to pace himself. And it's a shame, because when he gives an all-out effort throughout a round or in a whole fight, he's spectacular to watch. You can sense it in this fight and in this round. He fights in spurts.
McCallum forced to fight in spurts at the age of 40.
That's a good point. And we're seeing signs of that age in the last couple of rounds, Bob. We really are.
Think about McCallum. Won the WBA junior middleweight title in October of 1984. That was 4 years before Toney even turned professional. 15-round decision over Sean Mannion for the vacant WBA junior middleweight championship at Madison Square Garden.
And to put it another way, Mike McCallum turned pro 4 presidential administrations ago. So he's been around for a while. He's working on his 5th.
That was on the undercard of the Hagler-Hamsho 2. Little left inside, short left by Toney, and a right on the top.
If Toney would throw that left hook with any kind of conviction, he could make things happen.
Final 10 seconds of round 5. McCallum getting some shots in as well.
No.
And brought to you by Bud Light. This Monday night, February the 24th, we started off in the Big East. Syracuse and Providence. Then number 1, Kansas travels to Oklahoma to take on the Sooners. And then at midnight, Utah, led by Keith Van Horn, squares off against Rice at midnight. Big Monday presented by Bud Light on ESPN.
It's getting close to Final Four time now.
March Madness. Looking forward to that.
Still lots of college basketball actions to go. I'm sure all the conference championships will be here on ESPN.
And how about Dean Smith turning things around? I see McCallum in that Tar Heel blue. North Carolina, a big win today at Maryland. All the highlights coming up, of course, after boxing on SportsCenter with Carl Ravitch and Linda Cohn.
Toney taking it to McCallum here, trying to push him back.
Now the numbers in round 5.
Wow, huge for James Toney. He had himself quite a round, landing 53%. And McCallum, he's really slipping in the accuracy level you see there. McCallum has been pretty accurate in his 2 fights previously with Toney.
For the most part, Toney has been the aggressor.
That's my scorecard. I believe Toney is winning this bout by 3 points at this juncture. There's the double left hook. If James Toney would take a step to his left and just keep cranking up double left hooks, can I tell you something? he might knock Mike McCallum out.
Just to dispute your card a second, I have it 5-zip for Toney. There's a right hand by Toney.
I give McCallum one of the rounds. I thought he won the,
okay,
I think it was the first or second.
It's fair enough.
Fine, you're fine.
Just don't want fans to think I rubber stamp everything you do.
No, no, no. You should feel free to have an opinion of your own. Just don't express it on this show, but please feel free.
Speaking for the fan watching.
Work it out.
Left hand from Toney.
And, you know, Toney's doing a very smart thing here, too. He's facing a 40-year-old fighter. They're in the middle of the fight, and he is ripping body shots. That will stand him in good stead.
You mentioned something earlier that is apparent here. McCallum slapping a lot with his punches.
McCallum still going downstairs. There's an example. That left hook McCallum just threw, which landed. It was really an arm punch, very much an arm punch. He does not get leverage with his left hook like he used to when he was younger. We talked about the weight as it related to Toney. You made the point that McCallum is fighting at a weight that's highest he's ever fought at. This may make him more lethargic, and maybe it has.
Approach the final 10 seconds of round 6, and this will mark the midway point of tonight's bout for the vacant WBU Cruiserweight crown. Toney McCallum 3 on ESPN. Boxing from the lovely Mohegan Sun in Uncasville, Connecticut. Bob Papa along with Al Bernstein. We get set for the start of round number 7. James Toney and 40-year-old Mike McCallum. So far, Toney has done a pretty good job of remaining busy, not getting lazy or lackluster in the middle parts of the round. And Al, he's really starting to take control of this fight.
He is, and he's pushing Mike McCallum back. Freddie Roach, his trainer, told Toney, I want you to keep pushing him back. Make Mike McCallum go backwards. And I think in their thinking, they're looking, it's round 7. They feel McCallum's tiring. I think they think Toney can go to him and maybe get him out of there.
The trainer of Mike McCallum, the personable Miguel Diaz, who was once the cut man for Toney.
Yeah, and he said, you know, he said, I left Toney not on bad terms. He said, Mike McCallum came out to Las Vegas, which is where Miguel is from, and he said, I wanted to work with him, and he has. And he's a very animated guy, Miguel, and a very good trainer.
You hear Miguel Diaz saying, don't push, punch. Tends to be an important thing in boxing. You take a look at the numbers through round 6.
Toney, for the first time in all the fights they've fought, throwing more punches and landing more. Beautiful hook. I tell you, those hooks are having an impact on McCallum. A double left hook from James Toney could almost be the death knell for McCallum in this fight.
McCallum's been around so long, he was boxing when championship fights went 15 rounds.
Yes, it's true. You know, some fighters are conditioned to be certain kind of fighters. James Toney is not the kind of guy who will walk in, take a step to his left, dip down, and just crank up hooks. If he were to do that, he would win this fight more handily. But it's not his style, but he's capable of doing it.
And because of that little lapse, you saw McCallum snap the head of Toney back with a combination.
There's the hook again by James Toney. McCallum is looking very lethargic in these middle rounds. And he's always had a habit of pushing his punches, and he's doing it even more so, not throwing them with a lot of steam.
And a pretty solid performance to this point by James Toney.
Solid, that's a good way to put it. Not spectacular, but solid.
Round number 7 coming to an end. The pace picks up. Scheduled for 12. Toney McCallum 3.
Cranking up the left hooks. Landed that one, glanced off the head of Mike McCallum, but pushed him back enough to get some things done. And I think that hook, the one you saw glance, may be the key for Toney to really dominate this fight.
Miguel Diaz in the corner of McCallum telling Mike McCallum, hey, he's tired, more tired than you are. Do something. Toney has beaten McCallum to the punch throughout the night. It's becoming more and more evident as the fight goes on.
There's Freddie Roach, the trainer of Mike McCallum.
That Elvis Costello look.
Yeah, Freddie's been with him the last 2 fights. And he is the man that previously trained Virgil Hill, one of the light heavyweight champions.
Come on, you got to work. Bring that right hand on the top.
Also an Eddie Futch disciple, who formerly trained Mike McCallum. So the lineage goes on and on.
In round 7, Toney landing 20 more than McCallum and throwing 30 more.
Toney's been pretty dominant in these rounds consistently.
To this point, this one has not had the sizzle of the first 2. We'll take a look at Al's scorecard through 7.
I've got Toney now with a commanding 5-point lead.
As I mentioned, I have it 7 rounds to none. With the first 2, maybe 3 rounds being close, but since then it's been all Toney.
When you're winning rounds by 20 punches and more, you're really dominating.
The left inside from McCallum.
Now here's a round. This is a classic James Toney round. He's taken this round off. He might even be giving it to McCallum. He has just decided, I'm not going to do too much in this round, and guess what? He hasn't. He's aimlessly wandered through this round. No special offensive plan. Just kind of waiting to see what happens.
Final 10 seconds of round 8, scheduled for 12. The WBU Cruiserweight Championship on the line. It is vacant. Mike McCallum and James Toney in quest. That is the end of round number 8. Let's go to the corner of James Lights Out Toney.
Get it back, baby. Get it back. Come on, baby.
All right, it's dead even out there. When you pick it up, okay? You sure
Okay.
That cut is in a nasty spot on the right eye of Mike McCallum. And this is the punch that we believe caused that cut. Probably a left hook by James Toney. No, right hand, excuse me. Usually it's a left hook, but that one, yeah, and you see the blood starting.
Definitely was a punch, not a clash of heads. And round number 9 underway as Mom Sherry to the left, girlfriend Sarah take a look. Mom Sherry, Toney, and girlfriend Sarah in the James Toney camp. Let's see if this changes McCallum's attack at all out.
That cut is in a very bad spot.
Punch, fellas, I'm here.
And he is dabbing away at it. We know it's in a particularly bad spot because it's flying all over us here at ringside.
have a good seat, but it gets messy.
Now, of course, our view is that Toney is dominating this fight. That may or may not be the view of the judges. And we would caution you that people have wondered about scoring in the Toney McCallum fights before, both ways. See, the double jabs of Toney, that's what he needs to do. Walk McCallum down and throw those punches with authority. And Mike McCallum, for his part, I just don't think offensively he's getting too much done here.
Midway point of round 9.
Good, good. Step.
Well, we asked the question at the beginning, the question of age of Mike McCallum, conditioning for James Toney. We're getting into the rounds where the answers to those two questions will be readily available.
Final minute of round 9.
Tony has made so much better use of his jab in this round, both to the body and the head. McCallum has done nothing offensively.
Good, don't punch, don't punch. Let him out, Mike. Let him out. Step around. Come out. Hands
Really
up,
has
guys.
been the tone of this entire 9th round. It's been a McCallum retreat.
I think the cut bothered him, and I think Mike McCallum is not as fresh as he should be right now. And I still believe James Toney is underutilizing his left hook, which is the punch that really worked for him early.
Both work to the body. Round 9 coming to an end. Scheduled for 12. Toney and McCallum on ESPN's Championship Boxing. Mohegan's son in Uncasville, Connecticut. ESPN's Championship Boxing returns Friday, March 14th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Kevin Kelly against David Toledo as Kelly defends his WBU featherweight championship out.
That should be a good fight. We've seen David Toledo versus Kevin Kelly always in a good fight. There's the cut. They've done a very good job. Miguel Diaz, in addition to being a great trainer, is a superb cut man and often is employed for that skill.
Yeah, but by, you know, McCallum started rubbing what they put on his cut, and he seemed to almost wipe it in his eye. We start round number 10.
Toney making a very good use of his jab as he was in the last round, pushing McCallum back with that punch.
Third meeting between these two. Toney won one. They had a draw in the second. Actually, Toney won the second, and it was a draw in the first.
The jab is very close here. McCallum, it's the one area where McCallum has done well, but he's done so little in other areas that's why we believe he's probably losing this fight, although, again, the judges will have the final say on that.
You and I have it fairly lopsided in favor of Toney.
We do, but there have been moments when judges have not totally agreed with us.
Hey, look at us in the fight that we started tonight with Mullings and Joseph. You and I both thought Mullings was a winner. One judge saw it 78-74 for Joseph.
That was astonishing. You could have given Joseph a 1-point win, but 4 points is pretty excessive.
Especially in an 8-round fight.
Yeah, really. McCallum going downstairs to the body a little bit. I am really, truthfully appalled that Toney's corner has not suggested to him to take that step to the left and throw that hook. Freddie Roach is a very, very experienced corner man. And the fact that they can't see that that's wide open, there's the hook. He could throw that punch all night, but for reasons known only to them, they're not urging him to do it.
Well, in defense of Freddie, maybe he did whisper it to Toney and we didn't hear it. He's not following.
Well, possibly.
When he's used it, it's worked.
Oh man, I mean he can, and when he doubles with it, it really is effective. And it started in round 1. And on top of all that, the man is cut on the right eye. Every time you throw a hook, it's going to land on that cut.
Toney fights his way off the ropes. jab from Toney, and he backs away. Ring 21 feet by 21 feet. Fairly large ring. Round 10 coming to an end.
5 seconds.
That is the end of round 10. We'll take you to the corner of Mike McCallum. His trainer, Miguel Diaz, will also work on that cut.
Michael, we're losing the fight on 2. In order to get a draw, you have to at least knock him down or win these 2 rounds big. Other than that, we lose the fight. I can tell you plenty than that. I cannot tell you more plain than that. You have to go all the way. This is it. Or I start the fight. Why taking fucking punches for nothing? You have to go. You want to go or you want to stop?
Come on. Come on, man. You gotta drop that hammer, baby. That's your power punch, remember?
Don't take the grease away.
Come on, right there, doctor.
Pretty ugly cut on the right eyelid of Mike McCallum. And you heard Miguel Diaz say, you need a knockdown or a knockout or some big points in these last 2 rounds if you want to win. So Miguel Diaz sees it sort of the way you and I do.
Yeah, I mean, he's giving his fighter what he believes is an objective view of this bout. And we would certainly feel that, like Miguel Diaz, that McCallum is far behind. But the judges may or may not be seeing it that way.
Take a look at the punches in round 10.
There's Toney with actually not such a big edge, though I gave him the last round. Diaz's assessment of where McCallum is at in this fight, I think, is a pretty realistic one. But again, as I say, the judges may or may not agree with him.
Counter right by McCallum after he ate a combination. Go ahead, Al.
Now, both men landed good power shots. We're not seeing them land those good, solid power shots as much as we might.
Talk about these late rounds. They've both been there, done that. You go past the 8th round. Toney's been there 24 times and McCallum 20.
They're very experienced.
They each have 1 11th round knockout in their careers. Hook to the body from Toney.
Good body work by Toney, and I think that really stunned Mike McCallum. That was a great body shot. I don't know if Toney realizes McCallum was so shook, but I think that left hook to the body took a lot out of Mike McCallum. And again, what was it? A left hook. And McCallum, I have to say this for him, he stayed active in terms of number of punches.
Does McCallum have enough pop to hurt Toney?
Well, he doesn't look like he is hurting him to me, but again, oh, nice right by McCallum.
Yeah, that one landed. That caught somebody's attention, and a little left from McCallum as well.
And every time Toney throws that hook to the body and then throws to the head, he lands, and he lands big with it. And the body work of Toney is effective. It's been a very interesting round here in the 11th.
Mike McCallum showing some life here in round 11. Is it too little, too late? Final seconds of round 11, the 12th and final round to come. Hope you're enjoying ESPN's Championship Boxing.
Judges may or may not be seeing it the way we're seeing it. We feel James Toney is winning this bout, but what Mike McCallum does is throw lots of punches, create a lot of confusion, if you will, and that was an example. I actually thought McCallum won the last round.
Fiery Miguel Diaz sends off Mike McCallum to James Toney for yet another round 12. This will be the 36th round in this series, and they have been close.
Step nice.
This bout has mirrored the other two, although in my mind, truthfully, I think this is the one that Toney has dominated more than the others. I don't know if the judges will agree with that, but that's my view.
I think our numbers, which tend to be quite accurate, would support that. Almost 1 minute gone by in the 12th and final round. Take a look at your scorecards to this point as McCallum with a flurry and Toney answering.
I've got Toney winning by 5 points in this bout.
I have it 7.
Okay, and again, I would caution you, the judges may have it closer. I don't know that, but it's possible.
McCallum has never recorded a 12th round knockout, although he has one in the 13th round. Toney has one in his career.
McCallum using some pretty good movement here to try and look for angles to punch at.
I'm here, fellas. It's me. For me.
1 minute to go in the 12th and final round. The vacant WBU Cruiserweight Championship on the line.
McCallum landing a pretty good left hook there a moment or two ago.
Don't forget SportsCenter to follow.
There is an urgency at ringside here that leads you to believe that a lot of people think this is a very close fight and that a rally here and there could still make a difference.
All right, guys.
And even if that's not our view, it might be the view of the most important people, which are the judges.
All that counts. There's the left hook again from Toney and a right.
And he rips a hook to the body. Give Mike McCallum credit. Say what you want. At the age of 40, for him to go through this kind of war, still make some things happen, is very special on his part.
A good job by Steve Smoger, the referee. Toney, McCallum 3 ends with a series of rights from each. We'll find out who the winner was for the vacant WBU Cruiserweight Championship as ESPN's Championship Boxing returns after this timeout. That's how the judges tallied it up. Here's our ring announcer, Mark Bureau.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a unanimous decision. Judge Steve Epstein scores it 115-113. Judge Kevin McCallum scores it 115-113. Judge Larry Hazard Jr. scores it 117-111. All to the winner and WBU Cruiserweight Champion of the World, James Lights Out Toney.
James Toney, a unanimous winner on all three judges' cards. The final judge, Larry Hazard Jr., had it. Well, Al Bernstein had it 117-111. He wins the WBU Cruiserweight Championship. Let's take a look at the final numbers. Toney, much busier, and he landed about 140 more punches, 160 more punches to be exact. It was more accurate. Al Bernstein is in the ring, and he will have a chance to talk with the new WBU Cruiserweight champion. Let's send it up to Al with James Toney.
All right, thank you, James Toney. Let's see if we can sneak him around here. Turn around this way, James. Get my left here. Okay, this is James Toney. Now, James, that was a fight that ended up being very close. I personally thought you won by a little bit more than two of the judges. One judge had you ahead. Were you surprised that two of the judges had it so close?
First of all, I want to say hello to everybody back in Vegas, my hometown, the Fairshine family, Chris, all the girls, Otis, everybody out there in Vegas supported me. Love y'all. Back in Detroit, and my girl Rachel back in New York with Mrs. Willard. Everybody back in Ann Arbor. Don't matter.
Are we going to go from east to west in the country or what? Let's make it west to the west coast at least.
Well, there's 4 world titles and 4 different weight classes. Yep. I want everybody to know that. You know, tonight was a tough fight. Only trained police for the fight, as y'all see. Mike McCallum, like I said, they don't make fights like us. We great warriors, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, indeed.
We fought, me and Mike, we fought the best fighters out there. When Mike was in his heyday back in the early 80s and 90s, nobody wanted to fight him. But I took the challenge, because in order for me to get better, I got to fight fighters better than me. And I want to thank Mike McCallum, who got me started.
Mike in here.
He's a great fighter. All due respect, I have no, you know what I'm saying? We had some grudges outside the ring, but I have to let Mike know it's all love, you know what I'm saying? It's business. It's nothing personal. He's a great fighter, and I idolize him.
Mike, good performance tonight. Congratulations, even in a losing effort.
Thank you very much.
All right. What about your future? Does this look like the last time out for you?
I don't know. I just go back and leave out of it. Everybody fight.
All right. Good effort.
Thank you.
James Toney, you now, as a cruiserweight, won this title, but you say no. That's probably not your weight class, is it?
No, I'm going back down to fight lightweight. Everybody think, you know, Roy Jones, because that BS what happened a couple months ago with Montville Griffin. Stephen Wonder saw that. I didn't lose that fight, but, you know, he's going to go ahead and fight the Sissy himself on March 21st, I guess. I'm going back down to lightweight to fight for the title again in the next 2 months. You know, this is a pit stop to just add a title to the collection, that's all.
All right, so you want to go back down to light heavyweight. Hey, congratulations. We got to run. Good effort. Let's go back to Bob at ringside.
All right, Al. James lights out Toney, unanimous winner over Mike McCallum to win the WBU Cruiserweight Championship.
Fight from a few years back between the man known as the Tasmanian Devil, Vinny Pazienza, and the defending...
Different approach than I had before. You know, and so, you know, I try to read what he's thinking about me. And so I'm not gonna, you know, I used to be more flamboyant, you know, verbal in what I say, you know, and try to make those predictions come through and true. So I'm not gonna do that anymore. You know, I'm just gonna be nice and relaxed and just, you know, try to kick a little flavor.
After the Hemford,
baby. He's a challenge for him because he is a 2-time world champion. He brings a lot to the table. But as far as I'm concerned, he's just